Hello, folks. Great to see you. It's been ages. So I'm going to, as I promised, I'm just going to give everybody a chance to get here. And apologies for all of the issues with streaming. It's the daily challenge, everybody, of trying to do things on YouTube. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think the key is, ladies and gentlemen, to just be calm about the whole thing. And so we are calm. I'm going to have a sip of my nice tea in my self-isolation choir mug. How we're doing, 42 people online. How splendid. So hello Albert, hello Colette and Michael and Chris. It's great to see you. I think I saw Sir Robert on the other stream. I hope you found it. I hope you found us, Sir Robert. It's magic. Hello, Sue. Has everyone clicked like? Or lots of people clicking like? How amazing. Fantastic. Well, folks, today's deep dive, as I say, is something a little bit different. We've been talking about specific musical genres and composers, and this is, well, it's an exploration of genre, but it's going to be a bit of a myth buster, this one. And the thing is, Christmas carols, I don't know about you, Christmas carols for me, they embody the very best of Christmas. When I was a child, I would look forward to Christmas carols more, I think, than the presents themselves. And I know that makes me weird, but I loved singing Christmas songs at school. There were some that I just, whenever they came out, and particularly after, I think, the first Christmas I remember really loving the Christmas carols. I think I would have been 5 or 6. And then the next year, when everyone said we're singing Christmas songs again, I would just get so excited. And I always used to love the shape of the melodies. They always had a really singable, fun feel to them. It turns out there's a very, very good reason for that. But first of all, I think we'll just need to set the scene a little bit, everybody. So welcome to the deep dive. We've had a few people come along. If you're here for the first time today, a very warm welcome. My name's Ben. This channel is Homechoir, and we run all sorts of things. We run choirs on this channel, but we also have some history and theory teaching. And today, well, we're talking about Christmas carols. And most of us think, well, that Christmas carols, it's this sort of feel. Let's have a little bit of, you think of Christmas carols, you think of this sort of scene, don't you? Happy people singing beautiful music, sometimes even, often in a church. And it might sound, I don't know, little bit something like this. It might be, ding dong merrily on high, in heaven the bells are ringing, ding dong merrily the sky is rimmed with angels singing. Gorgeous, gorgeous harmony, 4 parts. It's very much Christmas starts here. But what I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to just use our imaginations for a little bit and just imagine, here we are, a beautiful nighttime scene. I'm just going to start a little video and the stars will just start to twinkle. And here we are in the late 18th century, possibly even slightly earlier, say the 17th century. And it's night. And we are in our houses, in our little village, out in the middle of nowhere. And it's very much nighttime. And all we hear is just the sound of the wind. Just settling down for a nice sleep. Just getting nice and relaxed. And then all of a sudden, just as you drop off, the pub's kicked out. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that the truth of the matter is that the early Christmas carolers were a nuisance. And the early Christmas carols, many of the tunes that we sing today, well, they're bawdy pub songs, ladies and gentlemen. They're songs to be sung in the pub very loudly. And in fact, the word carol, well, the meaning of it may surprise you. But before we talk in any more detail about that, let me introduce you to a very, very important person. If you've ever been to a Christmas carol service, well, you owe this next gentleman a vote of thanks. This gentleman's name is Edward White Benson. There he is in all his glory. Clearly, someone had just called him before the photograph was to be taken. Edward, what? very, very important man, as it turns out, in the history of Christmas music. He himself, he and his family are very, very interesting, and well worth looking him up and reading about his family. His wife, his children, very, very influential people. His sons were both very prominent gay poets. And wrote a huge amount. One of his sons wrote a 4 million word diary, and a lot of their texts have been have had huge influence on contemporary writing, contemporary thought. He himself was the Bishop of Truro. Now, those of you in the UK know where Truro is. If you're not from the UK, Truro is a large city in Cornwall. It's the capital city, effectively, of Cornwall, which is one of the counties in the UK, down in the far southwest. And in 1880, when Edward White Benson, this chap here, marvellous, marvellous hair, when he was Bishop of Truro, he found he had a bit of an issue. And the issue was, there were several issues. One is Truro was a very new city, and the definition of a city here in the UK, generally speaking, is you have to have a cathedral in order for it to be a city. At the time, Truro was such a new city, well, it didn't really have a cathedral. It had a large shed, everybody. That was his first problem. He didn't have a cathedral. And the other thing is he didn't really have a congregation that would behave themselves. It turned out that on Christmas Eve, well, let's have a little look. On Christmas Eve, it's clear that the denizens and residents of Truro had a bit of a tradition. They would go to the pub, they would get extraordinarily drunk, and I mean properly Santed everybody, completely reindeered, to the point that they would then spill out onto the street and sing these loud, bawdy songs that were songs they would sing around together, stand around in a circle and sing in the pub. And a lot of these folk songs were quite inappropriate, quite rude, but very catchy. And these songs had kind of developed over centuries from, as we think, medieval folk tunes. And so he had the bright idea to invent a new service for Christmas Eve, and he took all of these songs. He wasn't the first person to do this, and this had been happening for a while, but he took these songs and just rewrote a few lines here and there to introduce a few elements of God and Christmas and Jesus into the meaning, and so that people would come to church in order to be forgiven just before Christmas Day. And he used the music that they were looking forward to singing to lure them in. So rather than going to the pub and getting horribly drunk, as I say, completely and utterly reindeered, instead you'd go to the cathedral and you would sing the same songs, except it would have a holy tint to it, and you could leave having had a sip of wine and a wafer and forgiveness, and the streets would be considerably quieter. So that's the origin, ladies and gentlemen, of the modern carol service. In case you're wondering, this if I just drag this picture across, here's a picture of Truro Cathedral today. A magnificent Gothic building. Well, as I say, in 1880 it didn't exist. It was commissioned and planned in 1880, and that building was finished and completed and consecrated in 1910, everybody. So it looks like a cathedral from the 15th, 16th century. It was constructed after the great cathedrals of the southwest in 1910. There you go. So, well, that's fascinating. But the carol service itself is one thing, but what about the carols themselves? So what is a carol? Well, carol, the actual word itself, comes, it seems, from the ancient Greek word choros, to mean to dance in a circle. And that's what these things were, caroling, carousing. People would go to the pub and would drink and would sing these, frankly, great fun songs. And when we heard those carol singers a moment ago loudly sing, if you sing these beautiful, beautiful melodies that we all enjoy so much, but if you add the extra element of a drunken crowd, you can absolutely hear why people enjoy singing them after they've had a skinful or two. So that's really the origins of carols. Are these medieval folk songs that are almost exclusively secular, and as we'll see, some of them are downright inappropriate. But let's dive in here. Here's a little diving in. Here we go. Time for the deep dive, everybody. So, as I've said, the origins of these carol tunes we think are medieval or pagan, and most are about carousing and general debauchery, drinking lots of wine, and really they're solstice songs. They're songs from the end of the year, and many of them are about nature, many of them are about completely unrelated aspects. I mean, for example, let's take the song "I Saw Three Ships Come Sailing In on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day." Let's just have a listen to the very opening of this. We all know this one.
I saw three ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day.
Lovely, lovely carol. The question I have to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, is where did you see these ships? I mean, if we're talking about Bethlehem, and it does go on to say, and they sailed into Bethlehem. Bethlehem is landlocked, ladies and gentlemen. And what are these three ships? Well, it turns out that this carol has nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas. Here are the original words. I saw three ships come sailing by on New Year's Day in the morning. And if you read on, three pretty girls were in them then, were in them then, were in them then. Three pretty girls were in them then on New Year's Day in the morning. Then if you transplant this lovely tune from King's College, Cambridge, into the King's Arms next door, and one could whistle and one could sing and one could play on the violin, such joy there was at my wedding on New Year's Day in the morning. Suddenly you can hear toes tapping, you can hear fiddles, you can hear lots and lots of happy carousing and caroling. So there, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of a song that has nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas that you will hear in a Christmas carol service. Let's carry on. The Holly and the Ivy. The holly and the ivy, when they are both full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown. Originally, this was a solstice song, had nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas. The verses about as red as any blood and Mary bore sweet Jesus Christ to do poor sinners good and so on, these were all added in the 19th century to make this song appropriate and acceptable to sing in church, but it started out as a song celebrating nature and the solstice. And on we go. Jingle Bells. Well, Jingle Bells is a good one, everybody, because Jingle Bells is one of those songs that has absolutely no mention of Christmas in it whatsoever. It sounds very, very Christmassy because of the association with sleigh riding and jingle bells and so on. But a lot of this is that combination of the solstice, of Christmas, and in the case of Jingle Bells, it's a Thanksgiving song. It's all about eating and drinking and being thankful and going out for a sleigh ride in the snow with your family. The second verse, which goes, now the ground is white, go it while you're young. Take the girls tonight and sing this sleighing song. Just get a bobtail bay, 240 for his speed. Then hitch into an open sleigh and crack, you'll take the lead. I mean, you don't hear those words performed at Christmas time. That's because it's not a Christmas song. We sing it at Christmas time, we associate it with this time of year, but it's just a bit of a holdover from Thanksgiving. And what's the most important thing about all these songs? What unites them? They're really, really good tunes. They're great fun to sing. They lift our spirits. And there is this tradition going back thousands of years at this time of year, particularly those of us for whom the sun is disappearing gradually as the days go by. We gather round the fire, we eat, we drink, we wrap up for warmth, and we sing happy songs. And so Jingle Bells, I'm sorry if you like it at Christmas time. Well, it's not a Christmas song. Let's have a look at just one more. Actually, we've got a couple more, I think. So this one is Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and I absolutely love this particular story. So if you know Hark the Herald Angels Sing, if you've been singing your self-isolation choir, we've been singing it. It's words by Charles Wesley, the great Dr. Wesley, and music by Felix Mendelssohn. Easy. It's there on the score, isn't it? Now, what you might not know is the original words that Wesley wrote were, "Hark, how all the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings." And I have to say, when I discovered this, I thought, well, first of all, that's fascinating. Secondly, what on earth is a welkin? Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, the welkin is the firmament above you. And used in context, the crowd cheered and the welkin did ring with their sound. It is that immediate space of air and sound that when a crowd cheers, you get that sort of feedback of sound. The welkin is that space above. And it's a lovely, lovely, lovely bit of writing. And if we kept it, it would sound like this.
Hark how o'er the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings.
So I think it's actually really rather nice. The thing is, welkin even then was not a word that was used very much. I have to say, though, having rediscovered this, I shall be using it a lot more. But the words themselves were rewritten about 20 years later by the Reverend George Whitefield, and they now say, "Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the King of Kings." Interestingly, Dr. Wesley did not approve of this change at all, and in fact wrote quite an angry letter to the newspapers about this change. It turns out that as a traditional literal interpreter of the Bible, he took great exception at the fact that the angels were being said to sing, because actually the Bible states quite clearly that the angels say the news to the shepherds. They don't sing it. And Dr. Wesley wrote, "I am not prepared to be held responsible for any of the doggerels or picadillos of man." Having said that, well, he is. If you look on the score, it says words by Dr. Wesley. So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to point out about Hark the Herald Angels Sing is this lovely... Actually, just put it back in the right key. This lovely, lovely tune that we all know is called Hark the Herald Angels Sing is not actually called Hark the Herald Angels Sing. It was not written as a Christmas carol at all. It was actually written about Gutenberg, the gentleman who invented movable type. And this piece was written for the 400th anniversary of Gutenberg's birth. And it's known as the Gutenberg Cantata, or the Festgesang. Now, you can hear the whole thing. It's on YouTube. I can't play it because the recording I've got is copyright. But it's well worth listening. And in the middle, well, you'll recognise it. There is that tune. But it's all singing about the praises of a man and of his achievements, and about how if we hadn't had this invention, mankind would be diminished and so on. A real celebration of a human's achievement. And Mendelssohn himself, once the occasion of the 400th anniversary had passed, well, he found himself with this great tune and words that were now, that's so last year. We were celebrating Gutenberg last year, and let's not worry about it. And he actually commented, this is a good tune. It needs some words, but he wrote very specifically, and he said it needed new words, but he wrote, "They must not be religious." Okay, Mendelssohn clearly said these new words must not be religious. So, in short, ladies and gentlemen, when we sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and we enjoy this wonderful Christmas carol, we are going against the explicit written wishes of both its lyricist and its composer. So I just thought that was worth sharing with you. And so just before we finish today, folks, there's so many other great little stories that I could share with you, and I would recommend have a little read around. You'll love the history of Christmas music. There's more to be said, and we'll look at it in a future deep dive, probably next week. But not all of these Christmas songs had the bawdy origins that we've been saying about. Some of them have more gentle and have more personal stories. So Stille Nacht, for example, this beautiful carol from Germany, which was written by the lyricist. The tune was actually written by the lyricist. The melody was composed by the man who wrote the words, and the accompaniment was then played by Herr Gruber on guitar, because the organ in the church that was supposed to be premiering was broken. And so that's one of the reasons why Silent Night is so simple and so beautiful. And I just want to say to those of you from Germany who shudder every time we sing Silent Night or Stille Nacht in English, I really do understand the sound of Stille Nacht. Those words, or just the sounds, all flow so beautifully. Silent Night, it stops in the middle. Stille Nacht is such a lovely combination of sounds. So I do empathise. And the other thing to say is so many carols that we enjoy here in the UK that a lot of people would say, oh, that's a very traditional English carol. Well, they're not at all. Away in a Manger, Little Town of Bethlehem, We Three Kings, these are all American tunes, they're all American carols. Many of our songs come from the Netherlands, they come from France. One of the melodies of Away in a Manger is a French tune, is a Flemish tune. Having said all that, though, many of them are definitely drinking songs. If we look at Past 3 o'clock, for example, past 3 o'clock, and a cold frosty morning, past 3 o'clock, good morrow, masters all. That's all about walking through town, waking everybody up with your singing. Ding Dong Merrily on High, we've already established, is a fairly bawdy carol. God Rest You Merry Gentlemen started out as a bawdy carol. Good King Wenceslas, I'll tell you about Good King Wenceslas another time. That's a fantastic story full of murder, intrigue and assassination, and no pages to be found. But perhaps the worst offender in all of the Christmas songs, ladies and gentlemen, is We Wish You a Merry Christmas. It's come to mean everything. It's the way that you finish a Christmas performance. When the last carol has been sung, the choir all come to the front, and then a cappella, someone gives a note and everyone sings in unison, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry, and so on. And then if you actually stop in the context of and think in the context of what we've been saying today, think about what this actually is. Well, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We won't go until we've got some. Now bring us some figgy pudding and bring some out here. It's that we won't go until you feed us. And if you think about the context of what I've been saying, remember that very, very opening, that's sleeping in bed with the wind blowing and so on, and suddenly there's this crowd of loudmouths outside singing these bawdy tunes. Well, you're going to pay them to go away. You're going to give them some pudding, whatever, to get rid of them. And so when you do sing We Wish You a Merry Christmas this year, ladies and gentlemen, pay a thought, spare a thought for those poor souls from the 17th, 18th, 19th century, going back into antiquity, who were harassed and harangued by Christmas carolers. We today, we can't imagine Christmas without them. I should imagine those people 100 years ago would have given anything for Christmas without carols. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed today's deep dive. I think it's absolutely fascinating. I want to thank one particular chap, which is Mark Forsyth, whose book, A Christmas Cornucopia, I can't even read it, Cornucopia, is fabulous. I've got it on my shelf over here, and I dipped into it to help with today's deep dive. So if you're interested in just really fascinating stories about Christmas, I can thoroughly recommend that book. It's really good fun.